Hello there, guys. Welcome back to the channel. We are finally back. Please do excuse our little hiatus. Hopefully you can hear me because my internet's been weird the last 10 minutes. Exactly as I'm trying to stream, obviously, as it always is. So I hope you can hear me and I hope everything's fine. But we're finally back. Sorry for the 2-week break or whatever, not on purpose. I will try to do at least one a week. At the moment, so it's a bit more difficult to get everything done. Aiming for 2, but we'll see what we can manage. But from the middle of July, when preseason starts, we'll be back to as regular content as we have been used to. Unfortunately, Pi's did warn me that this might happen, that his internet is a bit dodgy. Blame BT. So hopefully we'll be back. But yeah, I've missed a few things. I've missed a few rants on Romelu Lukaku. I've missed a few pieces of transfer news that we will all get through today. We will also touch on Romelu Lukaku. Of course, that isn't necessarily new news to a lot of you watching, but you might not have heard our opinions on it, or at least certainly not my opinion on it. So yeah, that's what we're here for. We're gonna talk about a lot of fun things, and we're gonna have a good time, I reckon. Charlie, first of all, thank you for being here as always, mate. How's the last few weeks been? It's a lot. We're kind of just waiting for signings. I mean, we'll get into that discussion whether we should be concerned that we haven't signed anyone yet or not in a minute. But we're kind of just waiting and kind of just sitting around waiting for anything to heat up a bit, right?
Yeah, mate, good to be back as always. Last couple of weeks, not been overly exciting from a Chelsea perspective, just the standard sort of rumours doing the rounds, links, interested in, monitoring, all the standard stuff. I'm just waiting for kind of that first signing to come through the door and then kind of kick on from there. But I mean, not an awful lot's been happening, to be honest. Just the standard links, and not cause for concern just yet. It's early days still. We've had a lot going on. I don't think people realise how much has been going on in like with the sale, with the transfer of ownership, etc. That's a big transition. These things don't just happen. And also, another important thing to remember is that just because something's not out in the public domain, it doesn't mean things aren't going on behind the scenes that have been kept under wraps. It's not like, it's not like the club are just sitting there, putting their feet up, doing absolutely fuck all. Like there are things going on, but just because it's not in the public domain, it doesn't mean it's not happening. But yeah, I can understand, why people might be a little bit frustrated in terms of, you see, other big teams, rivals going out and getting business done. City getting Haaland done early. Bang, Núñez, Liverpool done early. You think these are the teams you're chasing down. When you see deals like that being done, it's hard not to feel sometimes like, Jesus, what are we doing? Why aren't we getting a move on? But for me, like the most important thing is that as long as these guys are in by pre-season starting, that's cool. That's fine. Like whilst it's frustrating that, we might not be getting things done early, I think you've got to put a bit of perspective on it. And also we can reevaluate if it gets to the start of pre-season and we still don't have guys through the door, then we can kind of go in and be a bit more critical. But until that point comes, I think just need to relax a little bit, let the process do its thing. It's new owners, new people dealing with stuff. And then just kind of see what happens. But for me, no real cause for concern just yet, even though it is frustrating to see rival teams, doing big business and getting decent players in. You're still muted, mate.
See, that's what happens when you haven't streamed for 2 weeks. I tell a lie, I always forget to unmute myself. But I was going to say, Haaland, I feel like it's a bit different because obviously they got that done when the season was still going on. And, well, at the time, we literally couldn't. But obviously, the Núñez deal to Liverpool, I'm not sure, obviously, when exactly they started to have talks with each other. Obviously, I have no idea. But as far as I was aware, at least, I didn't hear of any serious links before the season ended. So they obviously did things since then, as far as I'm aware. So there I can definitely see the frustration a little bit. I will hold Pi's last to this one, just because he probably has the most, shall we say, slightly controversial opinion of the lot of us on this matter. But that's what makes these streams entertaining. How boring would it be if we always just agreed with each other? So Clutch, welcome back. Less so to you than it is to me. But first of all, hope you had a good 2 weeks that I've left you all alone. But similar thoughts to Charlie, where it's like, we're kind of just waiting for something to happen, isn't it?
It's good to be back, obviously. I think I like to echo pretty much everything Charlie said. You got to remember that this is a new era. Chelsea is no longer under the Roman Abramovich era. Yes, we still have some of the players and the board and whatnot. Yeah, I get that. But we have a new ownership who's looking to kind of take a new direction with it. City and Liverpool have been doing this for a while now. everything they've done is planning it way in advance. If we thought they were going to come in and have things ready to go, no matter what we've been told in private DMs or whatever, I think it's one of those where we have to be a little bit more patient, because if we want to just go out and sign X amount of players in 4 days' time, I think that's just unrealistic. Kounde is a little bit different because I feel like we should have had that deal last year, but that's about the only one that I'm not really being too lenient on. But other than that, no, I think it's just about being patient. I think things will get done. It's going to take time with the new ownership, with everything going around. There's a lot of pieces moving, so it's hard to do everything that quickly, especially if you're a club Chelsea size. So I think it's just about being patient. I said it last night, and I know a lot of people didn't like that, but our goal is to get closer to City this year. It's not to challenge for the title, because we're not going to do that. That's just not going to happen. Anybody who thinks we're challenging for the title next year, I'm sorry, you're not going to have a very good season if that's what you expect. We're trying to close the gap. We want to get things better. We want to bridge the gap, and it's just one of those seasons where that's how it's going to end up being.
The unfortunate thing is, and obviously who knows whether that will happen again, but in the last 2 seasons, even with Lampard in charge, and obviously last season with Tuchel in charge, before Christmas, so by the end of November, early December, we were top of the league in both of the last 2 seasons. Now, if that happens again, we can all sit here now all we want saying, we can't expect to win the league. We will be expecting to win the league if we're top by November. We will all be there. And considering we've done that with Lampard and last season, I mean, obviously last season we still had Rudiger, sure. I mean, Christensen was playing as well, but also on and off. Do you know what I mean? So it's a tough one. Do I think we should expect to win the league? No way. Absolutely no way. But before I take this to Tobias, I quickly want to react to this comment here by Mason, who says, none of these players from Man City, please. We ain't Arsenal or Man United. Now, while I hear this general sentiment of what you're saying here, at the very same time, and I'm not saying you specifically, Mason, but as a grand scheme of things, our fan base, if we sign someone from abroad, they're like, stop signing someone from abroad all the time. They need too long to adapt to the Premier League, and then they can't hit the ground running. And then we are linked to players from the Premier League, and you're like, let's not sign, the old scraps from other teams. Well, which is it? Obviously, you could say sign a Rafinha from Leeds, who is more up and coming, but Gabriel Jesus is only 25 years old, so it's not like he's done and dusted and he's past his peak. If anything, his peak is yet to come. So, I understand your point in a way, but also we've had so many signings from abroad that have gone so badly. Maybe a signing from a Man City is exactly the type of thing we need. I'm not saying we should buy both, but maybe one of them, in my opinion, preferably Gabriel Jesus, but we'll get to that discussion in a little bit. But I don't think that will be a bad shout at all. But Pies, let me get to you, mate. Thank you for being here as always, my bro. First of all, busy 2 weeks for yourself. It's been kicking off a little bit on Twitter, but I hope you're good. And yeah, and obviously most people will probably be aware you've been kind of critical of the club, of Mourinho, whoever, well, everything really at the club. In terms of that, we've not gotten anything done. Do you see the argument by people when they say as long as it's done before pre-season, it doesn't really matter, and there is always the chance, as much as you and all of us do read a lot and have a bit of inside information here and there, not everything always gets out. And especially because it's a new era, we don't know yet whether everything will get out or not. Like under Roman, we knew things most of the time, we'd hear about things. But now that it's a new ownership, that theoretically could have changed. And just because we haven't heard much doesn't necessarily mean we won't get it done before July 2nd. But I do agree with Pies, though. If we don't have shit done by July 2nd, I'm not saying every player we want to sign needs to be here by July 2nd, but 2 or 3 need to be here by July 2nd. If that's not the case, I will jump on that train that Pies has been on for 2 weeks and be like, all right, we need to have words here. But until then, I'm a be a bit calmer. But Pies, why exactly have you been as annoyed with it? Is it the fact that City have already gotten Haaland and Liverpool have now already gotten Nunes, or what? Where exactly is that coming from?
I just think, first off, I hope my internet's fine because it's been absolutely awful. Yeah, I just think it's a bit of both, really. It's a bit of annoyance that I think when I'm looking at Spurs, they're being really, really serious in the market. They have a director of football in charge. They're employing all these people. And I know this is a transitional period. We can't expect Mourinho to go now and all that. But when Spurs is acting like a more serious club than Chelsea in the market, like that's when there's problems for me. Like we got told that there'd be, straight out the traps as soon as sanctions ended, things would be flying. That was what was fed to us, and it just hasn't been the case. So I feel like we could, I'm not saying that negotiations aren't happening behind the scenes, but I'd have liked to hear a little bit more. And I don't believe people that say, "Oh, it's a new ownership," info won't come out of the club. That's nonsense. It's just not. Journalists will always get info out of the club, no matter who's in charge. You can't lock
But
it
if they
down.
always got
Social
info,
media
you
nowadays.
never have a shock transfer. They do happen every so often.
Not very often with Chelsea, though. I think.
No, but that's the thing.
I mean,
that could change, and we just don't know for sure for now.
yeah, maybe.
I
but
agree with you.
I
It's
mean,
unlikely, right? Don't get me wrong. I agree with you. It's unlikely that is the case.
yeah, I just
Well, we
a
don't
lot
know
of the
for sure.
a lot of the frustration as well for me comes with that. I just don't trust this current setup to do the things that we need to do. I mean, you just look at our last few windows in terms of personnel we brought in. Like we won the Champions League, we signed one player, albeit it was £100 million, but we sold like loads of youth players to afford him. So it's not like it was some massive outlay in terms of like personal, coming out the balance. It was afforded by player sales. And the other signing we made was a loan player on deadline day. And people were telling me, oh, don't worry, we'll get all the players in, everything will be fine. There's no
Tuchel
solid.
really wanted so last season for whatever reason.
Yeah, but like the thing is, this with everyone saying we're rebuilding. Do you really trust the current pitch? Do you really trust Marina to head up this rebuild? Because I don't. That's where my my issues and problems are coming from. Like Kounde as well. People saying, "Oh, what are you going to be saying when we done Kounde?" Well, mate, we should have had him last year. That one doesn't even count, by the way. That should be that should be box ticked. Dembele is a free transfer. There's been no movement on the second centre back Rudiger replacement. We've just been fed constant list of names, which is very, very annoying. Like this club can't do two things at once, by the way. You'll notice that's why we're so slow on transfers. So look, I'll give it a couple more weeks, but I just don't trust Marina to head up this rebuild and get what we need for next season. And as for those people saying, we can't challenge for league, like you said, we was top at Christmas. We're always in and around it at Christmas. It's just we often fall off for some odd reason. I don't. Obviously, we agree our squad's probably not good enough, but the signings are that are out there, likes of Jesus, Dembele, two centre backs. People telling me this is career mode. This is a realistic transfer window. Like Lukaku's going, so you replace him. That's not career mode. You could get Jesus in to replace Lukaku. That's another thing I'm a bit worried about. The negotiations may take ages for Lukaku. He just needs to go because otherwise it's going to be toxic next season. I'm sure we're going to sell one of the wide players.
That's not just on us, though.
What do you mean?
Like Inter need to sort their own shit, their own financial shit before they can do anything for Lukaku. We can't just say, "Oh, well, go and leave then." Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think demanding a £20 million loan fee is but a £20 million loan fee is a bit ridiculous in my opinion. Like, you can't expect to get everything back for this guy. Like, I think what is it, 20 million loan fee, and then it's like an obligation or even an option. Like, they need to figure out quickly to get him to go because he's obviously the stuff that he's come out, not said, but it's been said by Demartio and stuff. He doesn't want to be here, so that's one of the problems. And we've got so many outgoings as well, like Marcos Alonso. People seem to be thinking he's going to be going to Barcelona. Well, they've got massive financial issues, and second of all, Marina likes to ask for those big prices. So, look, for me, I understand Todd Boehly's got a lot to do. It's not just transfers, but at the end of the day, I just thought we'd get the ball rolling a bit quicker. I think it's just embarrassing for me that Spurs are seeming more serious at the moment.
I mean, I hear that, but obviously Spurs will have been able to prepare things in all of April and May while we couldn't.
Yeah, see, that's another point I don't agree with though, because we had these lists drawn up way before sanctions. That's what Fabrizio Romano said. So there's no.
I don't think it's a case of that we didn't know who we want to go after, but
everyone's
it's a case
we've
of
had no time,
having to talk to clubs, and if anyone reported that to anyone that we officially held talks, we would have been in trouble because we weren't allowed to.
True, but people act like we've had no time to repair and plan. It's nonsense. Like,
I
we
think
have to wait a bit of time.
I think it's just a case of that we haven't, like the buying them is the thing that's taking.
You also got to remember,
because there's so many names, we clearly have some sort of plan.
You also got to remember, Todd Boehly didn't even talk to Tuchel until like the very end of the season, so it's hard to get things rolling.
It was a training once, quite early before it was all announced, but who knows what they spoke
I think
about.
it was the last training of the year before the last game. So I think that's where he first talked to him. But you also that's another thing. So it's like it's certain nuances that make it so everything is going to be a little bit more difficult. Even especially coming out of sanctions, people are probably going to look at us. We have new owners. They're probably going to be like, hey, we're probably going to charge you a little bit more because we can probably get a little bit more out of you because you have new owners. And they're going to have to pay a little bit more. There's a lot of things that go into these situations. It's not like I can't just sit here and blame them for being slow because I know everything takes time. It's just like, why did we not get the sale of the club done? Because it takes time to do those things. Things take time. Now, I agree. If it's July 2nd, we don't have...
It doesn't take time for Liverpool, bro. It doesn't take time
like
for
I
Liverpool.
just said it earlier, though. They've had like 5 years of the same people. That's a big difference. They've been working together for...
To be fair, on that Núñez deal, though, that's not Edwards that's doing that because he's on his way out. So that would have been someone else. The next,
it's the new guy. It's Julian Ward.
Yeah, it's the new guy.
Julian Ward. Yeah, and look how good he is. Straight in, bang.
But to be fair, they would have known that Edwards was leaving. Mate, you're still muted. They would have known Edwards was leaving, and they would have had the next thing in place. I think it's important to, perhaps in this window, Boehly's not going to have the structure in place that he wants, and it might take till January or next summer for him to get in the people that he wants, i.e., technical director or director of football, whatever he wants, until we really start to see how these guys are going to operate in the market. So, I mean, I think Marina will be here obviously this summer. After that, we don't know. But Boehly's going to want to bring in his own people. And so I don't think we're going to get a clear indication of how these guys are going to operate in the market until earliest January, but probably next summer. This is just this window is just a case of, get in what we can, and then we'll kind of see how it progresses and what these guys are going to be like in the market once Boehly's got the structure in place that he wants for transfers, whether that's director of football, whatever it is.
That is fair. I mean, Melly says Boehly needs to be learning the offside rule. To be fair, the referees in England don't know the offside rule either. And the referee that did the Champions League final don't either. So at that point, it doesn't really matter. And at this point, if they are correct and I'm wrong, then I don't know the offside rule because I very often disagree with these people on their offside decisions. Now, Melly made another point a minute ago, Python. I actually want to ask you about this. Why is it always Marina and never Cech that's getting mentioned? Because remember when you and I had this interview with Nathan back in January, and we asked him about what exactly Petr Cech actually does. And he essentially said, well, while he might be called technical and footballing advisor, he's essentially the sporting director.
He can go as well then. I don't care.
That's fair enough. But the blame, like people, and that's not just you, everyone, only ever mentions Marina. No, is that because Cech's the
she
club
actually
legend,
negotiates
or does that
the
have
deal.
other reasons?
She negotiates the deal. So she is responsible for how slow we are at acquiring players. It's as simple as that. Of course, there's other players in the other people in the background that do stuff and may identify targets, but ultimately she is the person that secures the deal for Chelsea Football Club. And unfortunately for her, or fortunately for her, she had a lot of backing for Roman for always finding, the right deal. It's always got to be the right finances. You know what I mean? And it's like, if it doesn't suit her, like this,
the right finances now. With
no, but like this is why players like Alonso are still here, right? And you know what? Don't even be surprised if he stays. By the way, this is an example of what Marina would do. I don't know how much she's asking this summer for Alonso, but she asked for, I don't know, 15 million.
I think it's 20 million euros. Sorry, I think it's 20 million euros.
If Barca offer 11 or 12 million, she goes, no, that's 3 million under my asking price. You're not having him. Get them gone, man. Like, what is this with the obsession with? Like, just get them out so we can rebuild. People saying we're going to rebuild. We won't rebuild with her in charge because she don't know how to facilitate a rebuild. She's useless.
It just came out.
I disagree because there is those examples where you can say it like that, where
we signed two players after a Champions League win.
Alonso stayed too long, and
where's the ambition?
There's so many. Barkley, whatever, they all stay too long, and I agree with you on those. But you can't just say she can't do it for any of them because Diego Costa had to be gotten gone, and we got him gone for 60 million. A player that hadn't trained in 3 months, we somehow sold for 60 million. No idea how we managed that. Oscar. Like, no one wanted him at the club anymore, except Clutch and Sophie Rose. And we got 60 million for him. I know it came from China, but still, like, do you know what I mean? And I mean, I said this to you previously in the group chat, I think, where like I say, I agree with you that Alonso should have been gone years ago. I mean, I said he should be gone after Conte's second season. But I think the big difference between then, or since then to now, and now, is that at the time it was like we didn't need it as badly that they had to, be gone. While now I think it's an absolute necessity. And also, now we're in a different situation where it's not the person in charge of the money anymore that we're kind of losing out on if we don't make enough money back on players. So that's why I think things will be very different to what they were a few years ago. And like I say, there have been huge sales the Marina has pulled off, where those huge sales have facilitated some of the huge signings we've made. And if we hadn't made as much money for some of these players, we might not have been able to sign as many big players as we did. So it swings in a roundabout a little bit, where it's if you sell players for less, you can also buy players for less in the long term if you're a somewhat well-structured club that doesn't just have a sheikh owner or oligarch owner that just pumps money in, right? If you don't have that, you need to get your revenue from somewhere. And when you have a stadium as small as ours in comparison to the other big clubs in the Premier League, then you need to bring that revenue in elsewhere. Liverpool, Manchester United, even City, they bring their revenue in elsewhere where we can't because the stadium is small. So they have that advantage over us. So we need to make up that gap somewhere. And where, if not in player sales, can you do it? Sure, you can say sponsorship deals, but I mean, we can only talk about new sponsorship deals for 12 days or 13 days, whatever it is. So I can't exactly expect new sponsorship deals to be done already. Eden Hazard, I mean, we got ridiculous amount of money. The guy had 1 year left on his contract, and he's earned us, 150 million by now? It's insane. You can't just say she's really bad at selling players. I think you're well off the mark with that part. But with some players,
would have a heart attack if he looks at our
I think
books.
you might be right, but not in general.
Boehly should have had a heart attack when he looked at the state of our books.
He should have done. But who are those main problems in that, though? Lukaku,
isn't Matt Miazga
Timo Werner, Kepa? Not really ones that you can blame Marina for at the time.
Is Matt Miazga still on our books? I think he is. All these Deadwood players need to go. Bakayoko, Alonso, Emerson, all of them.
We still got Baba Rahman on the books as well.
Yeah, Baba Rahman.
Batshuayi.
Yeah, Batshuayi. She can't seem to sell him.
But have you ever considered, Pice, that maybe the players refuse to leave? Like in Batshuayi's case, for example.
Why they refuse
Baba
to leave?
Rahman's
Why would
case.
he refuse to leave?
But because they're on stupendous money at our club that they will never get anywhere else.
That's what I said is half the problem, because we offer them stupid wages.
I don't disagree with that. But as in, it's easy to say, no, we should have gotten rid of him. When we signed Batshuayi, he wasn't a bad player. The only mistake we made is that who was the manager when after Batshuayi was on loan at Dortmund? That's when we should have signed him, because he scored 30 goals in half a season. That's when we should have sold him. We probably would have easily gotten 50, 60 million for him. But then we decided not to, made him a third choice striker again and ruined it all. And the same with Baba Rahman. Who came up with that idea to even sign him in the first place? You know what I mean? The problem isn't the contracts that they got. The problem is whoever came up with the idea to sign him in the first place, because that's the bad part. Once you make bad signings, every bad signing is difficult to get rid of for any club. Every club suffers with that, because once you realize, this player is nowhere near as good, the whole world realizes this player is nowhere near as good, and then no club that has good money will want to buy that player, and that's when you're in trouble. So it's one thing you need to be better at selling players, but it's also a case of you need to be better at, that's why it's a long-term rebuild, not just a one summer thing. Even if we change our scouts and if we change our process of how we do things, we need to first give it a few years to get rid of certain things before we actually reap the rewards of those changes that we've made. They don't happen from one day to another. I would say, the Malang Sarr 120k is mental, but it's also easily explained because he came on a free. And players that come on a free get big wages. And I'm sure there was other clubs interested in selling Malang Sarr on a free at the time. So then if we want him, then we need to somehow incentivize him to come, and that's how these wages come. It's the same with Timo Werner. Why is Timo Werner 275k? Because we had to beat Liverpool. There's reasons for these things, right? And they're on stupendous wages. I completely agree. But the problem is that whoever decided that we want these players at the time, that's the problem. Not really the wages they got in the end, because those were to some extent necessities. Do you know what I mean?
But then the wages do become a problem, though, when you're trying to move them on. So
yeah,
I think
of course. I'm not saying they're not the problem, but
yeah,
I'm saying they're a problem created by another problem.
Yeah, no, of course, they're both problems coexist together. But that's one thing we've got to get better at in this new regime era, etc., is not offering players ridiculous wages, because at Chelsea, let's be honest, we don't really know how many signings are going to work out. And generally speaking, the big money signings, more often than not, don't work. It's normally the ones that are like the cheaper options that have been much better for the club. We need to make sure we actually offer wages in line with a player's ability. I know players are going to want big money from Chelsea, but we've got to stop doing it, because otherwise we're going to end up in a situation we're in now, where we cannot get rid of players who are on the books, who are taking up wages, and we're just going to end up losing them for free and getting no money back into the club. That's not a way to run a business. You know, the reason why we can't get rid of half these players is because we offered them stupid wages in the first place. And as a professional, why would you in a short career, why would you go and play somewhere else for half the money when you can just sit and do fuck all at Chelsea and pick up 100k? At the end of the day, you don't blame these people, because a lot of us would do the same. I'm not saying I would, but a lot of people would do the same. So that's one thing that's got. Come on. I mean, to be fair, yeah, I would.
We were on 100k, and then we said, "Now you need to go," and the other, wherever else you go, say obviously 50. You're like, right. So I'm supposed to halve my wages, even though I've got still a contract here. I'm gonna stick it out.
Yeah,
who wouldn't?
That's the thing. That's got to change. Like that, I don't know how we structure it or how we change it, but that's got to change, because you look at like some you sort of see wage lists posted on Twitter, and I don't know what the exact wages are, but the disparity between what some players are earning compared to others and what they offer to the team is just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And CFC Blues, again, while it sounds stupendous and it absolutely is ridiculous, the big difference is that Liverpool paid 60 million or 55 million for him, and that's when you can just say to the player, especially a player that was globally not particularly well known and comes from the Portuguese league, where his wages are probably like 10k, if that, a week, then obviously it's much easier to incentivize players, right? And then you're like, well, we already paid so and so much for your transfer fee. We can't give you that much in wages. But any free transfer player knows, well, you didn't pay any transfer fee for me, so you can give me big wages. And then again, free agents are much more difficult to get, in a sense that more clubs will be after free agents because, well, they come for free. And then you need to beat out their contract offers. That's why free agents end up having huge wages. I mean, people are all over Dembele. Dembele will be on stupid wages. I mean, people have to be prepared for that. And if it doesn't work out, we will struggle to get rid of him just because of his wages. If it doesn't work out, we all hope, fingers crossed that it does work out. But if it doesn't, it's a problem. And that's the same with like Baba Rahman. Like when we signed him, he was a great fullback in the Bundesliga. Now, sure, Bundesliga tax, I get that. But he was a good player. Like there was merit in signing him at the time. And also signing him into a position where he's backup left back, or potentially even fighting his way into first choice left back. Because I think when we signed him, Aspie was a first choice left back who isn't even a left back, right? So there is some sort of logic to it where it's like, okay, if you think a player is good and you expect him to be playing somewhat regularly, then there's no harm in giving them a reasonably high wage. The problem is when they end up then never playing, then it's a real issue. The Drinkwaters, the Barclays, the Baba Rahmans, the Batshuayis, although I don't think Batshuayi is actually on stupid wages. I mean, still high comparison to most other clubs, but compared to Chelsea, right? But let's quickly talk about this Lukaku situation. Now, the only thing I will say is it's Di Marzio. And I don't want to slag off Di Marzio, and I don't want to, especially with Nathan working for him as well. But it's Italian news, right? And it's Italian news that want to, like in Italy, they want Lukaku to come back to Inter because he's big for the league. Like he's a big player. It's all like big drama, big talk. Like he's good for the journalists there, for the news outlets there. He's clicks, he's money. He's good for everyone there. So, and I'm not going to try to defend Lukaku. I'm just saying there's a small chance that the report isn't true. Small chance. Just saying. But if the report is true, that basically ever since his interview, or since the interview has been released and he received a lot of backlash, which is, I still find hilarious that he still doesn't understand why he got so much backlash. To me, absolutely hilarious. Okay, I need to quickly. Sadio Mane was signed from Southampton for not a lot of money, hence the small contract. The problem is he's leaving now because his contract's running out, but he's not been there that long. Mo Salah was signed from AS Roma not a particularly big club. That's why they're on lower wages. That's the reason, right? Compared to like signing like a Werner from RB Leipzig. Very different to Roma and Southampton. Like, it's not the same, right? But yeah, anyway. Yeah, Lukaku apparently been chatting to Inter, to players, to the board, to directors, to the manager, ever since then, really, on and off, all the time, wants to force his way back. Apparently wants to feel important and doesn't feel important enough. And now, the reason why I wasn't like all over, I need to stream on this topic, and I even only gave it one tweet, because I'm already so annoyed at him. This didn't add much more annoyance to me. I'm like, first of all, not surprising to me at all. But also, I'm like, how I can't be that much more annoyed. I was already quite close to my limit of how annoyed I can be at a footballer. So how much more can I really give you? Clutch, what was your reaction to that whole Lukaku situation? I mean, we were kind of aware of it, but not obviously as publicly confirmed, shall we say.
I mean, the interview that started all he did was wax lyrical about Inter and Inter's players and the fans. Am I really surprised that he would have been talking to them behind the back? No. I mean, it's almost expected. Like, the guy, everything the guy's ever said, other than his introduction interview and his interview when he got in trouble for the interview, those are the only two positive things he's actually said publicly. Everything else has just been, he doesn't want to be here. It's clear. It's clear as day he doesn't want to be here. He only came here because Inter didn't have the money to sign him for the contracts he wanted, and Chelsea did. They offered him $325, which, hey, I mean, go make your money. But unfortunately, he's been one of the worst signings we've had. And that's just the truth. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm not annoyed. I've not been annoyed for a while. I mean, nothing shocks me, because I knew he didn't want to be here. So it didn't shock me at all.
Pice, what about you? I feel like after the first few weeks, you kind of changed your tone a little when you were like kind of willing to almost give him another chance, and kind of had a little bit of hope that he would be able to turn it around and then still end up being the guy that we hoped for him to be. Did that bit of news that came out by Di Marzio kill that, or was it already killed before?
It's a hard one. I'd say it's already nearly killed, but I was open to him having a pre-season and working with Tuchel and seeing if they could sort out the differences. But I think I did say to Clutch a few weeks ago, I actually feel like it's a bit of a dead end now. I just feel like even if I wanted, like in an ideal situation, for him to go to pre-season to sort, I don't know, the tactical differences out, come back afresh, just start anew, forget what's happened. I thought, you know what, you can't really forget what's happened. I don't think we'll ever be able to. The match-going fans have, because the games I was at, they're still singing his name and stuff, but clearly he doesn't want to be here. Di Marzio, for anything outside of Italy, I would I mean, it's still reliable, obviously, but anything inside Italy, in terms of negotiations, inside the scenes stuff, behind the scenes, I take it seriously. And just the thing that makes me believe it is, like, he wants to feel important. That is such a Lukaku thing to say or to think. Like, that is 100% true. Like, as soon as I read he wants to feel important, I was like, yeah, this guy's a big baby. Like, he wants to be the main guy. He wants to be the focal point. He doesn't feel important. Like, just shut up and get gone. Honestly, if you don't want to be here, just go.
Got a call by Marvel and was like, "You can be the next Thor." He'd retire tomorrow because all he wants is be main character. That's all he cares about.
And I can't believe any of the crap he comes out with anymore. If he does, eventually brush his side, because at the start he was saying, I'm a team player. I can do what I can do what the coach wants.
Then
he does an interview. Now he doesn't feel important. Like,
what?
Bro, I know, it just doesn't make any sense. So for me, just get him gone, because I feel like if he does stay, it's just going to be toxic. He won't play much. I think Tuchel has given up on him. I know a few people have said, I think it was Jacob Steinberg said after that Crystal Palace game, we had like the 7 touches. Apparently Tuchel, that was when it was it for him. He was done and he lost his patience. So the thing is with Tuchel is, like, he is obviously a strict coach and stuff, but I do see him as as a coach that you could make up with very easily, but it demands effort, and I don't think Lukaku is willing to put that in. So, yeah, I think he's going to go. Hopefully.
There you go. There you go. One fair point that was made. We can't complain about high contracts or too high wages and then complain when deals take too long because, well, if we did pay everyone what they want, then we'll have just more players and wages that we're not happy with, I guess. So I do see that to some extent. Let's get a bit of the kind of smaller transfer news out of the way that we have kind of missed. Actually, Charlie, you were the one where it said, you told us that for you, that kind of changed your opinion. You were one of the people that defended Lukaku quite heavily over the last, 6 months, shall we say. While for you, it was a case of once that bit of news a few weeks ago came out or last week came out, that was like, that's it for you. So why exactly did that change it all for you?
Well, I mean, I'd say I've defended Lukaku a lot, probably a lot more than other Chelsea fans, had a lot more patience with him than others. And it's kind of just like thinking that there is a good player in there. He is a good player, let's be clear that, his record speaks for itself. He has scored goals everywhere he's gone, except, of course, at Chelsea, which is fairly standard whenever we sign someone decent. But yeah, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. Look, his conduct's not been great. Let's be perfectly honest on that front. He shouldn't have done the things he's done, but, everyone deserves a second chance at things. We all kind of make mistakes, whether it's on the pitch, off the pitch, whatever it is. Deserve a second chance. But for me, it's difficult really, because like Pi said, I was at the Wolves game towards the end of the season. He scored twice, and then the Matthew Harden, everyone was chanting his name. He was loving it from the fans and stuff. And then towards the end, a couple of games later, you just don't see that. He looks disinterested. It looks like he doesn't want to be there. And for me, I don't know how true that news is or not, but it's just kind of it's got to the point now where it's just disrespectful, really, in terms of to your current employers, to your fellow players, the fans. And yeah, that was kind of it for me. I'm just like, this guy doesn't want to be here. It doesn't matter how good a player you are or how good a player you potentially could become. If you don't want to be at Chelsea at the end of the day, just go. And I think for me now, it's at the point where, look, I was like, Pius, we discussed this at length when he come on my channel. Would have liked Lukaku to have a pre-season with a fit James and a fit Chilwell and just kind of see what happens. Maybe if we switched systems and went 4-3-3, had Dembele one side, except things could have been a little bit different. But I think he's just too one-dimensional a player. He's not versatile enough. And he doesn't want to be here, clearly. And I think also... the
frustrating thing is that he calls himself so versatile, and then he's the opposite of it. That, in my opinion, makes it even more frustrating.
That's the problem, is that, he said what he said, and then it actually turns out that he's, for the Premier League at least, he's so limited. He can't do what Tuchel wants him to do or what the rest of the squad want him to do. And yeah, for me, someone that doesn't want to be here, kind of that last bit of kind of respect for him, I guess, kind of just went. And yeah, it's disappointing because this was a sign that we were all excited about. Well, a high majority of Chelsea's supporters were excited about. And yeah, it's just not worked out. I think now it's got to a point where so many bridges have been burned. It's such a toxic situation, like Pi said, that I don't see how we could possibly go into next season and still have him here. Part of me thinks, I would quite like to see it just because I still think it could come good. But in reality, I think it's going to cause us more problems because you can guarantee if he ended up staying for whatever reason, we get partway through next season and someone else would come out, and we just don't need that constant, negativity sort of surrounding the club. So yeah, we need to cut our losses. But again, he's going to be hard to move on. Inter have got financial issues. They're not going to pay the big loan fee we want. I mean, talks of a swap deal, maybe Bastoni, Skriniar. I'd be open to just doing a player swap. If we can get rid of that. If we can get rid of,
they want that.
No, but I mean, yeah.
They might not want that, but it depends on what they want more. Do they want Lukaku back more, or do they not want to pay us 20 million?
I mean, that
goes back to Marina again, though. Will she cave in and do a 10 million loan deal instead of 20 million?
Oh, but what if that ends up then in August we get Skriniar?
Yeah,
by just playing hardball. Do you know what I mean?
No, but I don't think you can play
hardball
with this, though. I don't feel like you can play hardball with this, though, because we link with Jesus and Sterling.
That's the difficult part.
Yeah, because of Lukaku going, right? Those are the rumours. So
you know what I was going to say, actually? The reason why I don't know if I even want him to leave is because I don't know if it's worth it, the hassle. Because what Charlie just said, if he stays, or Pies touched on it earlier as well, if he stays and then he causes problem in the dressing room and blah, 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 I'm like, he might do, but I'm not sure if the whole drama that would happen, and I guarantee would happen, in the process of trying to get rid of him, wouldn't be worse than just forcing him to stay almost, and just be like, well, you fucked up, so now you're going to play Carabao Cup and nothing else. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that's good, but I'm concerned that the whole process of getting rid of him again for any sort of reasonable money will cause more problems than just keeping him. But we're not
going to get reasonable money for him. So at the end of the day, it's whether if we want him out, then we just kind of almost within reason need to accept what Inter give us. Not like completely, but we're going to have to come to a compromise. We're going to have to come down because they're not going to come up to us. So it depends really. Like for me, last thing on it, if we can get a swap deal where we can get rid of someone that we don't want in Lukaku and bring in something we need in a centre-back. I don't think Skriniar's an awful player. 24 years of age, can play in a 4, plays in a 3.
No, Skriniar's older than 24.
No, money though.
Oh, he's 27. What? He's 24 or 27, one of those two.
Marcio said Inter Milan want like 70 million for Skriniar.
Yeah, and I think PSG want him, yeah.
Skriniar... The other one I was just going to mention as well was De Vrij. De Vrij and also Dumfries, I think they're looking to get rid of.
Oh, Dumfries.
Well, Dumfries wouldn't be that bad either.
Back, I guess.
He's a good wing back, to be fair.
He plays both sides as well.
His name annoyed me. Because in Dutch it's pronounced Dumfries. I'm like, what is that?
It's going to be one that goes deep into the window, this one, because it's going to be so hard to negotiate. But I think he has to go, basically.
Pies, just quickly before we finish this Lukaku topic, can you tell me, but also the people, so how exactly is Jay-Z supposed to be involved to get Lukaku back to Inter, which is the most mental thing I've ever had in my life?
Yeah, it's quite funny, actually. I tweeted this out. People thought it was a troll account or something, but no. So Rock Nation has done sports deals with Todd Boehly in the past and commercial deals, and Rock Nation's founder was Jay-Z. And Lukaku has been living over the summer with members of Rock Nation. So Matt Law was saying that they could potentially figure out a deal with Inter Milan to get him back there. Not sure what Jay-Z has to do with it other than he's the founder. I think that might have just been for a headline, but I think ultimately Rock Nation is more important because they've done deals with Boehly, with the LA Dodgers, and I think also apparently part owns LA Lakers, which I didn't even know. So yeah.
Me neither. What a comment, man. Jay-Z featured Belgian Piggy, the interview part 2, man. Bloody hell. I love it. Also, why is Lukaku staying with other people? He makes 325 grand a week. Can he not rent his own house for a summer? My God. Even living off other people's benefits. Shocking. But let's talk a few actual relevant transfer news where we're like, to come to us, not just depressing shit like Lukaku is awful. The wingers. Now, or forward situation. Now, of course, like Pies touched on, if Lukaku leaves, we need a striker. If he doesn't, we don't. So that obviously plays a big role in whatever we need to do. Now, Ousmane Dembele, I'll ask you for a bit of an update in a minute, Pies. But first, I want to quickly talk about the City pairing. Gabriel Jesus and Raheem Sterling. Now, Lewis earlier called Raheem Sterling the BLM Werner, which is quite funny. Yeah, I mean, you see it. Didn't he have that shocking miss for England the other day as well? Sterling certainly has issues with finishing. Everything else he's great at. And just the amount of penalties he'd probably win us, just that in itself would probably be useful. My personal pick would be Gabriel Jesus, just because I love the fact that he can be a striker, he can be a winger, he can be the person at the end of, to put the ball over the line, but he can also be the creator. Not necessarily in creator or play the wonder ball here, but be involved with, basically have movement, but don't be shit outside of movement. Do you know what I mean? That'd be quite useful. And also him being young, right? Young-ish, but at least not like 29. He's 25, so there is still more to come, which in my opinion makes it crazy the City want to get rid of him. Like, I know they just got Haaland in, but then, I mean, everybody is well aware Haaland is constantly injured. Like, have you seen this stat, by the way? You know how many goals was the highest number of goals Erling Haaland has ever scored in a single Bundesliga season? 27. You know the highest number of goals Timo Werner has ever scored in a Bundesliga season? 28. So that is mental. But that's because Haaland is constantly injured, right? So then what do they do when Haaland's out? So that's why I'm surprised they'd be happy to get rid of Sterling.
They've got like Alvarez, haven't they? The River Plate.
I forgot about him, to be fair. Yeah, okay, makes sense now. My bad. But still, I'd be all over Gabriel Jesus. Charlie, what do you reckon? Would you, or between the two, but then your opinion on each of them, I suppose?
Well, for me, out of the two, it's Jesus. It's one that kind of, in a weird way, sort of excites me. It's a sort of deal that under Roman, Chelsea wouldn't go anywhere near. But now, like, we've got to be smarter. We've got to kind of, think, put more thought into the market, etc. Sign more players from within the Premier League. And just because Manchester City are getting rid of a couple of players doesn't mean they're bad players. Look how stocked they are for quality players. Just because someone's not getting regularly into the City team does not mean they're a bad player. And he could definitely improve us. The reason why I want Jesus over Sterling is, one, age, 25. It's got like room for growth.
Sterling is what, 28, is he?
29, I think, possibly. 28 or 29.
Even. He only turns 28 in December, to be fair. But still, go on.
But still, for me, the versatility as well. Because if Lukaku goes, and we're not going to bring in like a traditional number 9, because I wouldn't say Jesus was a traditional 9 as such. He can play 9, and he can play that better than Sterling could. For me, it's the versatility across the front line and the age profile, and the fact that he'd be cheaper than Sterling as well. I'd rather spend, like, say, 40 to 50 million pounds on Gabriel Jesus than, like, potentially 60 million pounds on Sterling. I just don't think that represents as good a value for money, because with Jesus, there's still potential for resale value to make money again on him from the sale, or to recoup back most of what we paid for him if he decides to move on. Whereas if we sign Sterling at 28, you're unlikely to get any money back for him, essentially. It would kind of be like the last big move of his career, as it were. And I just think his finishing is... Look, Manchester City create a lot of chances. We do create a lot of chances as well. City probably create more chances than us, which, okay, he has got a good goal-scoring record, but it's because they create so many opportunities. So the misses kind of aren't highlighted as much, because he still scores a fair few goals compared to the chances created, if that makes sense.
I would say on that missing chances thing, and I know Timo Werner is our example, and that tells you the opposite, but not everyone is like Timo Werner, right? The more chances you have, also the more chances you'll miss, right?
Yeah,
obviously, Timo Werner just misses chances and needs more chances to still get goals. But not every player is like Timo Werner. Not every player that isn't amazing at finishing is like Timo Werner, where if you have a few more chances, they score way less. That doesn't always apply like that. My logic I agree with you anyway. Gabriel Jesus, number 1, we still don't know where else to play Havertz except up top. So the fact that Jesus can play up top and wide is ideal for that situation. Number 2, we've realized, okay, a proper out-and-out striker, at least Lukaku, didn't work at all. So then why don't we get the most different type of, but still kind of real striker you can find? And that probably is a type of Gabriel Jesus type player. So I'm not saying Gabriel Jesus is the best player in the world, not by any means. But I think he could kind of be exactly what we need to make our stupid system works if we don't go away from it.
And obviously Premier League experience as well.
Let me just add one thing to that.
Yeah.
The Sterling one. Now, I think we can or will get Dembele. Now, if we get Dembele, do I really need another winger? But do you know what I mean? Like, then we sign 2 new wingers. But we still don't play a system that's any good for any wingers anyway. So then, is it really worth spending a lot of money, even if Dembele would come for free, still in wages and, sign-on fee and agent fee, still big, right? Would it be worth signing 2 wingers? I'd rather have Dembele and Jesus, who can play striker and winger.
Yeah.
To me, that would make more sense.
100%. That like, if those are the 2, if it's a choice between Jesus and Sterling or Jesus and Dembele, it's Jesus and Dembele all day. There's a thing in the chat saying, "Oh, why can't Chelsea get both?" Like, I think, they could get both, but it's going to cost
$100 be a lot of money.
It's going to cost 100.
How many defenders?
It would cost 100 million to get both. Plus, we'd have to offload 2 forwards as well to make space for those 2 to come in. So, if we can't offload Lukaku, it's going to be
if we can't offload Lukaku, there's no way we're signing Jesus anyway.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. But yeah, it's one of them where we could get both, but I don't think we need both. I'd much rather concentrate on Jesus and Dembele and leave Sterling. I'm not saying Sterling's a bad player. I just think Jesus would actually suit Chelsea better than Sterling would.
Exactly.
I think that's just that. I mean, they're not bad players, but ultimately, I'd rather Jesus for the reasons we've given.
Fair play, Pice. Because I ask you after about Dembele, I let you go on just this topic first before I take it to Clutch. Jesus or Sterling? Would you want either? And if you would want either, which one would you prefer?
Jesus, I think, over Sterling. I did do a tweet a few days ago. I do feel like Sterling's getting massively disrespected by some Chelsea fans, though. Like,
I do agree
when I
with
saw,
that.
yeah, like people were saying, "Oh, he's crap, he's rubbish." He's really not rubbish. He's really, really not. He does miss quite a lot of chances.
He carried England at the Euros.
Yeah,
so.
like everyone was saying, "Oh, it's Pep's system," and then I was like, "Yeah, but, England at the Euros, he did very well in a horrible system." So. No, he's definitely a good player, but Jesus, I mean, Charlie's pretty much said it all. The versatility, the main thing, and I think as well with Jesus is he's more of an inside forward, like we play, like he's not an out and out winger. So I think he'd suit, left, right, striker, wherever. Like I think it would be a great sign, and also, Arsenal are in for him. So again, for me, it's like, will it happen? I think it could very well happen, depending on how quick Lukaku's moved on. And I think that's got to be the main goal for Chelsea. With Lukaku is try and get him moved on as fast as possible so we can get Jesus, because he's going to pick us over Arsenal. So
yeah.
Also no Spurs, they're interested in Richarlison. If they don't get him, I think maybe they could move for Jesus, but I think he'd improve Chelsea a lot.
Would Jesus even want to go to Spurs though, unless they lose Son? Because
I don't know. It's very attractive. Be a starter Spurs, unfortunately. No, probably not, but I don't know.
Surely he wouldn't want that. Like, he wouldn't go to Spurs to the bench again.
Yeah, but then Richarlison, I don't know whether he'd be.
They can have Richarlison, I don't care about him.
Yeah, no, I think Jesus could very well happen, yeah. I like Sterling, I'm just not sure, like you said, if we need another winger. I think if Lukaku goes, it's more sensible to buy someone who's, naturally a striker, but can also play in the other spots, the 10 spots, as Tuchel calls them.
Exactly. Because for me, it would also make the great option of you can play Havertz and Jesus, and you start either one wide, and then they can just interchange. Because I'm sure if you
Jesus, Havertz, Dembele, that'd be crazy fluid. I think that's one thing we needed. We lacked fluidity last season, didn't we?
Like, I mean, Mount will still start every game.
But like it could.
But.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but you could do all sorts of things if we got those two in. Like again with Dembele, he's not got a weak foot, so you can play him left or right. You can mess with people's heads if you get two of them in, because you never know where they're going to start. So, yeah,
exactly. There you go. Let me take it to you, Clutch. I swear to remember from the group chat that you are not as sold on Jesus or Sterling as maybe myself and Pice and Charlie are. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Also, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, we have over 200 people watching, which I very much appreciate. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. We haven't been here for 2 weeks, so less subscribers over the last 2 weeks. So please do get subscribed if you're new here. I'd massively appreciate it. And smash that like button for me. Just one click of a button really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, and it doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time. But Clutch, what are your thoughts on the Jesus and Sterling situations?
I think you guys make very good points when it comes to Jesus. I think his versatility is one of his biggest assets. And like I said earlier in the group chat, at least with Sterling, like, we don't play wide players. Like a player like Dembele, I'm not trying to be negative or anything, because I hope this isn't true, but every great moment we see from him comes from a wide position. We don't play wide positions unless they're wing backs. So that's where my Sterling reservation comes, because that's a lot like what he likes to do. But Sterling or Jesus makes a lot of sense. I mean, he can play up top, he can play on the left, he can play on the right. There's many different positions he could pick. So for me, I think he does make a lot of sense, and I think he does improve. If Lukaku goes, then yes. But it also depends on, like, who are we selling this summer? Because we're going to have to get rid of a couple of attackers if we're going to bring in a couple players, because it's such a stacked roster that you're going to have to give time to everybody, or else people are going to get upset. And that's one way to lose the locker room as well. So, I mean, personally, I'd take Jesus over Lukaku. He just makes more sense in the system that we play, unless we change the system.
Fair. Although I will say, like we just touched on, Sterling basically carried England at the Euros, and they played a very similar system that we play. England do. So, in terms of obviously not identical in terms of everything that we do within the system, in terms of the general structure. Just judging from where he plays at England, he's clearly quite okay at playing this kind of half winger or not. Do you know what I mean? So that is obviously a difficult one. But Price, I already brought up the stats here, but just quickly, bit of an update on Dembele. I saw the last thing I read, which I don't think we spoke on here yet because we haven't streamed since then, was that there is growing confidence at Chelsea that we can get this done. What's the latest on that one?
Yeah, I think this one probably will happen. I think it's still between us and PSG. Shayla Gussie has got some very good Barca contacts and contacts with Dembele's camp. Earlier tweeted that Chelsea are in pole position. Tuchel has spoken to him. He has discussed the project supposedly. So yeah, I think this one could happen. I just think it will be down to wages. What will Chelsea offer Dembele? I think compared to PSG, there's obviously rumours as well that Luis Campos might not want him, but again, there's also rumours that the Qataris of PSG really want him. So I don't know. Do they overrule Campos if things come to head? I doubt it, but you never know. He's only just got.
Also, what does Mbappe want?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what does Mbappe want? Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, I mean, PSG do need to replace Di Maria in some sense, I guess. But again, you know, if Tuchel spoke to him, Dembele, Premier League's more attractive than Ligue 1, I guess. But also he's French and he could just live in Paris. It's a difficult one. But yeah, I have confidence. I do. I think this one is one that Chelsea will do, I think. But wages, yeah, I mean, they're going to have to be some sort of compromise on there because what he's asking for at Barca is ridiculous. And I think the president said a couple of days ago or a day ago, you know, they've got a contract down for him and they're not offering him another one. They haven't even heard a response from him yet. So he's obviously like, you know, still assessing his options and stuff. So yeah, I do kind of see where Clutch is coming from as well in terms of like he is an out and out winger. I do agree. I just think with this one, it's like if Tuchel can't get the best out of a player that is literally like was like his son at Dortmund, then, and not like son as in Heung-min's son. I mean like his son as in like, you know, like family connection. Obviously they're not related, but they were very, very close. And you know what I mean? Like if Tuchel can't get the best out of Dembele at Chelsea, then that's his problem in my opinion.
Then who can he get the best out of at Chelsea?
Yeah, exactly. Like you know, they love each other. Like Tuchel bangs on about him in every interview he's asked about him. So yeah, I think this one will get done.
There you go. I mean, obviously, I don't know if Dembele would agree to that, but I think Dembele is one where in my opinion, we should try to do, again, if he agrees to it, is give him a lot of bonuses, performance-based bonuses. Like, don't go too crazy with the base wage, but go quite crazy with the bonuses. Because if he does stay fit and if he does play the way we know he could play, because in terms of pure talent, he's one of the very best forwards in the world. But we're not sure whether we can unlock that potential because there's been attitude problems at Barcelona. There's been injury problems at Barcelona. You know, there's been all sorts of different things. So if the base wage is somewhat reasonable, but then there's crazy bonuses, say if he plays 30 games a season or gets 15 assists a season or 15 goals assists in the season. Although, as you can see on screen, goals is the last thing he's probably going to get you on a regular basis. Although, again, you know, it depends on how you deploy him. The way Clutch said, yes, Dembele is a real winger. Would he be as good for us? Maybe not in creation, but maybe that would make him better at goal output. That could also be a change that could happen. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I would be a fan of if we, rather than go crazy high wages and have another problem, just if he does perform, he earns big money. But if he doesn't, we don't screw ourselves. I would hope he'd agree to that, and I would hope we try to get him on something like that. But yeah, just a few stats up on screen comparing the 4 Chelsea wide players. Even though Mount is not on it, even though he will play the same position as these other 8. But anyway, although Nkunku will probably be more of a centre forward than anything else. But yeah, as you can see, obviously in terms of goals, Callum and Dembele are the worst. So, you know, the Callum fans will be big fans of Dembele. But yeah, it's quite self-explanatory, really. I mean, Sterling tad better than Jesus. Where does that come from? The tap-ins. And Nkunku has obviously had a stupendous season, but I mean, it's Bundesliga tax and Leipzig tax. Now, Pulisic at Chelsea is the best. Doesn't play enough. for whatever reasons, who knows? I'd love to ask Tuchel that question. I'm surprised that Ziyech has 0.3 goal contributions per 90, if I'm honest. Werner's one doesn't really surprise me as much. But then you get to where Dembele just dominates everything. Assists, shots created, through balls, forward passes, shot creating actions, crosses attempted, like so far superior to all the other ones. Sure, possession lost, he's the most. And, I'm surprised that Jester doesn't hate him for it, because usually that's his favorite stat to bring up. He's lost the ball so many times. And like I tell Jester every time he does say it, that's what happens when players take more risks. That's why Ziyech is also high up here, because he takes more risks. And you compare it to that's also why Ziyech doesn't play as much, by the way, because Tuchel doesn't like players to take risks. That's why Ziyech doesn't play a lot, unfortunately. And you can see it there with Pulisic and Callum as well. The criticism that fans often have that they don't take risks, but that's also where they very rarely lose the ball. Well, and Timo Werner. I'm surprised that Timo Werner doesn't lose the ball more, if I'm honest. Almost that stat in itself makes me question the whole every stat here being legit, because I
can't lose the ball when you dribble out of bounds.
But he also passes. No, he also passes it sideways so much, so he probably does lose possession less than we think.
Yeah, I guess he always passes it back to like Alonso or Rudiger.
Yeah, he only ever really dribbles when he goes on that stupid run down the line and puts that low ball in, that low soft ball that goes to the first defender every time.
It's another one of those where stats are a bit like, I wonder what defines possession lost. Does running out of play, is that possession lost? Does, crossing but not to a teammate, is that considered as possession lost? Like, I wonder. Or is it just when you get dispossessed? Do you know what I mean? I have no idea. Now, when you look at the targets in terms of creation, Sterling is certainly the least effective of those four that are highlighted here: assists, chances created, and through balls. I mean, Jesus is not much better. 0.1 for assists, 0.1 for chances created, and the same for through balls. So not exactly much better. Although even Nkunku is only another 0.1 better in assists and a little bit better in chances created, but also not stupidly, high in comparison to Dembele. So when you look at those stats, Charlie, what does it make you think? Also, not just in comparison, not just the ones we're linked to, but also the ones that we already have.
I mean, look, it doesn't look great for the players we've already got, but I think Clutch made this point earlier in the group chat. These stats are great, but they're also very much kind of subjective, not the right word, but they're very much, they don't all apply.
Circumstantial was
that's the one. Circumstantial. They're great, but they're not. It's not like a direct comparison as such, because these guys aren't all. So obviously, Jesus and Sterling are playing in the same league. They're kind of playing different systems, different styles of football. Dembele and Nkunku playing in different leagues, different systems. There's no guarantee that you put those four or two of those four, whatever, in the Chelsea team, that they're going to deliver those same stats, because they're probably not, because we don't set up, we don't play expansive football like Manchester City do, or we don't play like Leipzig do, and we don't play like Barcelona do. So whilst it looks good, there is very much kind of circumstantial. There's no guarantees that they would do what they're doing for their current clubs at Chelsea. We'd like to think they would, but we've seen enough players come to Chelsea that are attackers that have had promising form in other leagues and come to Chelsea and been awful. But I would like to think that these guys have got good numbers. They've got good attributes, good stats.
Mainly Dembele.
mainly Dembele. And again, we need goals. Yes, Dembele doesn't contribute goals. We know that. He doesn't score a lot of goals. He never really has throughout his career. But what he does do is provide a lot. But then we need someone on the end of that providing to actually put it in the net.
I just say, Charlie as well. Can I just say, you see Jesus has a lot of reds, but they're all for like the creative stats. Yeah. Jesus is more of a poacher, someone that will get on the end of crosses, that will, finish the scraps off.
But his non-penalty goals of 0.4 isn't exactly outrageous either, to be fair.
But then
it's not outrageous, but he doesn't start a lot either.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He hasn't actually played a lot for Manchester City from the start. I mean, when he had that little purple patch, he got 4 against someone, then he scored against Real Madrid and a few. He's not a prolific goal scorer, Jesus, but has he ever been given that responsibility at Manchester City to lead the line? He's always been there when there's been Aguero there. They've always fancied other players ahead of him, which is fine. Doesn't necessarily make him bad. But maybe, you know, being given more responsibility at Chelsea might be a good thing for him if he ended up coming. But yeah, I mean, look, these guys obviously would be an improvement, I would say, on certain areas of our attack. But we just got to be careful when looking at stats and thinking that that stats from other leagues transfer across to the Premier League. Whilst some players will improve their stats or like be roughly in the same ballpark, a lot of players don't. It doesn't always work out. So whilst it looks good and these are top players and you'd like to think they'd improve us, there's kind of no guarantees that it will. So that's why I get excited about attacking players being linked with Chelsea and potentially coming in. But because we've had such a bad record of signings coming in the attack, you just think, hold on a second, if we got in 2 of those 4, would they be any better than the current 4? You'd like to think so, but I just worry.
We've got to try, otherwise we're stuck.
Well, yeah,
mate, we want to die forever.
We have to try 100%, but yeah, I do just worry when we're linked with attackers. It's just like, oh, they're going to be any good when they come. Part of me just thinks as soon as that blue shirt goes on, all footballing ability just disappears.
Yeah, there you go. And MCIG, you are mental. Like, I understand what you're trying to say. With, he wants to be just wide all the time and everything. I get it, but like, you are mental. You do realize that the wingback needs to also defend. And Brent, RD, the only valid reason to want Richarlison over Jesus, in my opinion, is if you want a player that's great at banner. Because that's the only thing Richarlison is better at.
And he's a shithouse as well, which is class.
Yeah. Well, but we're Chelsea, not Everton, right? So at Chelsea, you don't get away with shithouse. You just get booked all the time.
Unless you're Costa.
So would that even be particularly useful for us? I don't know.
But he's a shithouse that's got great banter, so it'd be good fun. Yeah.
The banter would be great. But in terms of, having a good play, I take Jesus over Richarlison any day of the week. Clutch, your reaction to the stats, your reaction to RD's comment here about Richarlison over Jesus?
I wouldn't want Richarlison any day of the week. Sorry. Like, he's barely good enough for Everton. Why would he be good enough for Chelsea?
Maybe on April 1st, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the only day. But, yeah, I mean, it doesn't say anything we don't already know. Dembele is a creator. That's why we want him. We want somebody who's going to create in the front 3. That's why I
think what he does show is that he's not just but how far superior of a creator he is. Not like, do you know what I mean? I think that do see that. Like, he's so far better at basically all of the creative stats than any of the other 7 on this list.
Yeah. Charlie took my spiel about the circumstantial side of it. But Dembele, the problem I have is we know Mount's going to start in the front 3. If you have Mount and Dembele, and then you're going to have to add a goal scorer in that front 3. Is it going to be Havertz? I don't really see him doing that very much. Maybe add Jesus. Sure, maybe he can get it. But that's where my worry is. It's going to be the balance thing that goes on. So, I don't know. Yeah, the stats are all well and fine. Always said Pulisic is more of a goal scorer than he is a creator. Ziyech, I think he deserves more time, and in the right system, he'd be fine. And Nkunku, I think we need to wait another season, see if he can replicate that same thing and kind of see if he's a little bit more diverse. But still, Dembele and Jesus are probably still well in the far of the way, the choices to go for.
Fair. And then lastly, finish it off in terms of opinions on the stats. Pies, anything you wanted to add to that?
No, obviously they're circumstantial. Obviously different systems, different positions as well. But I think as well, just one point on Dembele is like, I can see a few people saying, or not particularly in this stream, I can just see a few people maybe thinking, we've got Ziyech as the creator. Well, why do we need Dembele? You said that when Ziyech came. Thing is with Dembele, he's very, very quick, and he's a great dribbler as well. And he also can shoot. I'm surprised he hasn't got. Yeah, he's very exactly.
In Amsterdam.
Yeah, that is exactly the main point I was going to make. Is he's 2-footed. People don't realize how rare these wingers are. Like, he's amazing with both feet. Like, he's truly brilliant with both feet. The only other one was a player we won't mention who's, plays for Man United. There's obviously others out there, but that's the other really.
Pedro was up there with that, to be fair.
True, yeah, Pedro there. There's a few out there, but they're very, very rare. You get a winger that can is great with both feet.
Thierry Henry was like that as well, but like I say, they don't come in every day of the week. And I mean, I assume most people are aware of this, but just in case you're not, I'll tell you the story. So there's this very old interview, I think, where Dembele is still wherever he was in France before Dortmund, where he was asked in an interview, what is stronger foot is? And he's like, don't know. And then the interview asked him, well, what foot do you take penalties with? And he's like, don't know. He literally sometimes takes them with his left, sometimes takes them with his right. Same for free kicks, same for corners. That is mental. Like, do you know how crazy that is? And you're actually so good at both. Like, you can just put him on, like, I'm not sure how good his corner deliveries are, if I'm honest, but you could theoretically put him on both corners and change your opinion on the spot whether you want an in or an out swinger with the same player. Do you know how crazy that is? That's mental. But yeah, Pice, what are the other transfer targets that maybe we should be discussing? Now, there was one of the ones you mentioned now, the Gazzetta dello Sport from Italy. Iffy source, but what they have reported is that Inter only have 2 weeks left to take advantage of the growth decree rule, tax benefits in brackets, in their pursuit of Chelsea's Romelu Lukaku. The move could set off a domino effect around the whole of Europe. Now, if it's true and they only have 2 weeks to set it off, then I'm even a bigger fan of Marina playing a bit of hardball. Because if they've only got 2 weeks, they got to get shit done. Do you know what I mean? Because they want him back more than we want him gone, I reckon. Just because we're like, sit on the bench then. Who cares? That's my opinion. I'm like, I want him gone, yeah, ideally. But if he rots on the bench for a year, I don't care. He's pissed me off so much. Hey, if we have to put him in under 23, so I don't really care. Let him cry all year. All good. We're paying his therapist anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't care. He's pissed me off so much. I do not care how he feels. So I'm not bothered. So, but otherwise, any particular news? One thing I read by Adam Newsom was advised that apparently Declan Rice could be attainable for as little as £75 million.
Negotiations starting at 75. Actually, negotiations. Let me get the tweet up. Yeah, negotiations would start for a bid of in excess of £75 million. So I don't know how much.
Do an article.
Yeah, 75.1. £1. Yeah, that's what I said. But no, I still think that one doesn't happen this summer. But we'll see. Obviously, a massive fee. Transfer that will probably happen at some point. It's just what year it happens for me personally. I think he will come at some stage to Chelsea. The only other one I was going to mention was De Ligt. There's been a few rumours about him lately again. Potentially could sign a Juventus contract which includes a low release clause, which then means Chelsea would trigger the release clause, supposedly. But yeah, that one's one to keep an eye on. Obviously, we're linked with so many defenders. I think Sky Germany said Gvardiol was likely to stay. So perhaps De Ligt is one that they'll look at. I think who's it? Matt Law was the one that mentioned De Ligt. Supposedly we're ready to fund that move if Tuchel wants it. So who knows? I think Kounde's set for the first centre back. The second centre back will be very interesting. Obviously Koulibaly's maybe available as well. A few reports out of Italy, we may have offered him a contract, but in terms of our top sources, they've not really been mentioning much lately. I'm hoping for a bit more this week in terms of action. Billy Gilmore signed a contract, didn't he, as well today? So that's interesting as well. Automatic sort of extension to 2024. Don't know what's going to happen with him, but yeah, that one's interesting.
That is interesting, to be fair. I mean, good in my opinion, because even if he doesn't make it at Chelsea, I still don't want to lose him for free, do you know? Because you'll get 10, 20, 15, 10, 15, 20 million for him from some Premier League club, I reckon.
There was also one I didn't mention. Of course, we're close to signing that American goalie, aren't we? £8.5 million. Gabriel Slonina, his name is.
Yeah, and we're apparently beating Real Madrid to it. So, lost Lukaku, lost Hazard, lost Germany, but we're getting, what is it, Slonina?
Gabriel Slonina.
Slonina, I think. Slonina.
Yeah. Just basically Slovenia, just not. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, hey, but obviously, just for people thinking he could be our Kepa replacement if Kepa does leave, no, he would definitely go on loan until January, until the MLS season finishes, but then potentially another loan there. I mean, I would probably prefer let him stay in the MLS until January, then loan him somewhere to Europe, and then you could think about bringing him back. Don't leave him in the MLS for too long. We want him to actually get better. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, now, Pice, you mentioned there that you don't think Rice will happen this summer. Now, Tchouameni's gone and Rice won't happen this summer. Let's just assume you're correct with that. Then what happens in midfield? Because I can't remember who reported it, but I read earlier that kind of the expectation is that one of Jorginho and Kante will leave. Surely one of them will only leave if we sign someone, right? And then who will be signed?
I think both of them will end up staying.
And we don't sign anybody.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a car crash in midfield next year, honestly. I really do. I think Gallagher will be treated like a new signing. I think Ruben and maybe even Ampadu will stay. I feel like we'll just fill out and bulk up. Yeah. No, to be fair, I'm all right with Ruben staying. Ampadu as well won't have a chance. I think we've got five subs, haven't we? So I don't know. I feel like we might bulk out the squad. I'd love a midfield signing though. We do need a different profile. We do need a DM in there. I'm just not sure. Like, I don't know. Like, people talking about Sangare. Like, great if we buy him and it goes brilliant, like Mendy. Great deal. We've found a gem of sorts. You know, from a league we don't usually buy from, apart from Ziyech. So that would be great. But if he's like the next Bakayoko, he can't adjust to the league, or the next Saul, loses the ball, is clumsy and all that, then it's 35, 40 million wasted. So that one's very, very difficult. So could Chelsea go all in for Rice? Yeah, of course they could. Do I think we're going to? No. Basuma, you've got on stream there. I think would be a great signing. Again, less of a DM, but I think he could.
You can see just on his heat map that he's not a
yeah, but like he could play that role. I mean, he's dribble past the least with Kante out of those guys.
But isn't that also because he plays higher?
Well, I don't know. I feel like you're more like if you're going higher up, and I feel like you're more likely to be dribble pass, especially on the counter attack.
I get that, but as in higher up, the ball might just be on the other side of the pitch, and then you're not getting dribble past. While if you're the DM that's supposed to stop everything, more gets past you directly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you might have a point, but I think he can play that role if we put him in there. I think he's got the physical capability and the tackling as well. Really, really good. Great on the ball as well.
His court case isn't done yet, is it?
No, I've not not seen any update about that. I don't know what's going on, but clubs still seem to be linked with him. So yeah, I mean, these stats are interesting though, I must say.
I wish Sangare was on here. Obviously, I know he's from a very different league where how directly can you compare the stats from the Eredivisie to, well, Premier League for all but one of these players. But obviously, Bissouma, like, until the court case isn't done and isn't decided in his way that he's innocent, I want nothing to do with that guy anyway, if I'm honest. Obviously, if he is cleared, fair enough, you know, then I don't know the details of it, so I don't even want to speak too much on it. But yeah, but he is on there. Now, if you compare the stats, it's interesting. I mean, Jorginho, you can see everything that we know about him. I mean, I'm personally not surprised by the forward passes. Obviously, his haters will be. But I'm not surprised that he has the least intercept. Well, actually, interceptions, maybe. To me, ball recoveries and interceptions are very confusing stats to split. How are they not the same stat? Because isn't an interception a ball recovery? Like, by definition. In my logic, it is. Do you know what I mean? So I don't really understand how these two are always
maybe interception on here is like when you're 1v1, sort of the obviously midfielders facing you and you tackle them, or you intercept a pass. But then
so there's no tackle success on here, so maybe.
Yeah, maybe ball recoveries is like when you're running back or something and then you intercept the pass or recover the ball. I'm not sure. It's a difficult one.
It's definitely a weird one. But yeah, I mean, on this list, the standout that it's a midfield. Obviously, you could make that case for Nkunku and the stats we had on screen earlier, where Nkunku was green on the goals and white in all the other stats, meaning not the best but not the worst. That's an all-rounder. Now, Rice would be that all-rounder in midfield. In midfield, you want more all-rounders than in most other positions on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? Like, in midfield, that's quite literally the point of a midfield. You need to attack and defend. That's why the more of an all-rounder you are, the better you are. There's another tweet from that account with Sangare, and it is there. Why? No, I'm not. I literally read out your thing, Jester. But anyway, is there a Sangare one, Pice? Well, what was the where did you, because you sent this in a group chat. So do you have one where, or can you find one where Sangare is on as well?
Oh yeah, it might be the other pic. He did do 2 midfield pictures, so maybe I only sent the first one.
Did he? Okay, let me check then.
I'll have a look. I'll send it on your Twitter DM. My phone.
I'm just trying to realize if you already sent one with Sangare on it.
No, there isn't a Sangare one. I'll send you the other one though. It's of Gilmore, Gallagher, Kovacic, Ruben, and he's included Mount in it.
Okay, fair
as
enough.
a midfielder.
Fair enough.
So I'll send
but yeah, I mean, gone. Ampadu's a weird one. Charlie, what do you think when you see that midfield situation, and also what Pice said? Now, do you think we'll get someone? And if you don't, what happens? Like, do you then want an Ampadu to come back, or because in terms of proper DM out of our loanies, Ampadu is certainly closest to it. I think Ampadu could do a job if given a chance. Could he do a good enough job for us to win the league? No, but maybe he needs to be given a chance. Maybe he deserves to be given a chance. But hey, if the managers disagree, who am I to speak different?
I just don't know. Like, we're looking to close the gap, which we have to do. We have to close the gap. As far as I'm concerned, we're not going to win the title next year. I don't think we'll really challenge. As long as we're closer, then I think that's progress. I just think, I'm not saying Ampadu's a bad player. I like the likes of him and the likes of Gilmore, good, talented players for sure. Are we really going to close the gap with them playing for Chelsea? Come on. We're just not. We just aren't. That's my opinion. I'd love to be proven wrong, and people might disagree with that, but these guys just aren't good enough, in my opinion. I know that you could argue, they've not really been given a proper chance, but if you're good enough, you play. And there's probably a reason why these guys haven't played, because they're at the end of the day, they're not quite good enough to play for Chelsea. That's just my opinion on it. I mean, the others, I do think a lot's going to depend on what happens with Kante and Jorginho. Like, for me, if someone's going to come in, one of those two has to leave. But then on the flip side, we are overpopulated in midfield. But then with 5 substitutions as well, the amount of games we're going to play and how injury-prone we've been in midfield, the likes of Kante picking up injuries, Kovacic, despite how good he is and how important he is for us, he does tend to miss chunks of the season injured. He does get injured a fair bit as well. So, there is space for midfield players there with, obviously, with the amount of fixtures, with injuries, and with 5 subs as well. There is ample game time to kind of go around. But for me, if we can't get Rice, I'd love to see Basuma. But if we can't get Basuma or Rice, then it's a difficult one, because I wouldn't be that happy sticking with what we have. But then, all right, Sangare's linked. He's had a fantastic season in the Eredivisie. He's obviously a good player, but you're very much taking a gamble there on someone who is unproven outside of the Eredivisie, which, okay, you don't. Sometimes the success rate Eredivisie to Premier League's decent. Other times it's not. We've seen hits, we've seen misses. I don't know what Sangare would be. It'd be a cheaper option than a Basuma or a Rice for sure. Is he as good? I don't know enough about him, but it's one of those that, if you pulled it off, it's phenomenal. But if it doesn't work out, you just worry that you could be faced with, like Pi said earlier, sort of another Bakayoko situation. So midfield's an interesting one for me. It depends what it also depends what they're going to do. Like, if we're going to stick with a midfield 2, then we need to get rid of one before another one comes in for me. But if we switch to a 3, we have a lone 6 and we have 2 number 8s, and there's a bit more scope to bring one in without maybe necessarily too many leaving. It just depends what we do. But for me, Rice would be my number 1 target, because we haven't got Tchouaméni anymore, then Basuma, and then Sangare. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I mean, I'd like Conor Gallagher to be given a chance, but for me, if someone bids 40, 50 million pounds for him, and we're sticking with a 3 at the back with a midfield 2, then Gallagher's not going to get the minutes he needs playing in a pivot. He just isn't. So maybe it'd be wise to cash in on him.
Maybe it would be. It's such a tough one, the whole midfield situation. I'll just get one up, but Gallagher is on there as well. Again, not maybe. Well, this is obviously comparing slightly different positions, but still. Yeah. I don't know. Clutch, what do you think about the midfield situation? If Rice doesn't happen this summer, then what?
I think if we don't get a DM, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. I've been saying this from the rooftops. The back 3 does not suit our team. Yes, it does wonders defensively, but we seen last year when the defensive side of the back three goes out, what do we have to rely on? Nothing. And I think you're getting the best out of a lot of players in a back four, especially in the midfield position where you can deploy a Mount and you can deploy a Kovacic who's an 8. That's what Kovacic is. It's what Gallagher is. It's a lot what Ruben is. You have a lot more players that suit a back four and that 8 position as well. So it's one of those things where it's like, I know a lot of people may not like him, but like Rice is one of those players that helps us significantly. Basuma, if he can get his things out of the door and the problems of his past, if we can get those suited out, he would be a good player, even though I think he's more of a Conte-like player. We need one of those kind of all-around players that can play that defensive midfield role, or even like in a back or in like a midfield pivot with like a 10 in front of them. Like that's what we need to get the best out of some of these players, especially our attack and everything going forward. Personally, I've always been on the Rice train. I think he's an upcoming talent. I think he's going to be one of those players that when you look at the midfield and defensive stability, he's always usually there. He's almost always top of the metrics of passes going forward in the Premier League. So, I mean, he would be my first choice, but we need to get another midfielder. I think if we don't, and we try to put Gallagher as one of those 2 6s, like Pius said, it's going to be a train wreck. We're going to have problems. That's going to be a very bad day for us. So I think we need to start looking into, we need to find the right suit of a defensive midfielder. That needs to be one of our priorities. I said it last year before Lukaku. I'm saying it again. A defensive midfielder is and should be our priority.
We haven't really replaced Matic, to be honest.
I mean,
we
not really, no. But I don't like Matic. So.
Mate, Matic was class for us. We haven't.
Oh, good player, yeah. We haven't
United. We haven't replaced him. Like we still haven't replaced him, really.
No,
we went with a completely different profile in Jorginho.
Yeah, I'm not sure about these stat comparisons here because number one, if you're going to compare kind of 8s except Gilmour, why is dribble success, for example, not mentioned? But also Gilmour's possession lost stats, considering he's a real 6 more than any of the other players on here, is absolutely awful. Like, obviously, Mount makes sense that he has the highest possession loss because he basically plays as a forward, right? That makes sense. Gallagher plays quite high up in also a team that's not that good, so that makes sense. But Gilmour, I know played in a very bad team, but as a 6, that much, losing possession that much, that is a real problem, like a serious problem. But yeah, I mean, ball recovery's gone, Ruben. Big up my G. But yeah, like I say, stats are stats. This is a bit less skewed because obviously at least it's 3 in the Prem, 3 at Chelsea, but at least 2 different positions. But even Ruben and Cover didn't always play the same position. Just look at their heat maps. Number 1, one's more on the right. Number 2, one played wing back a few times and more sitting than Kovacic did all season, really. But yeah, I mean, played a truly terrible. He did, Brent, to be fair, he did play in a truly terrible team. That is a fair point to make. Now, Austria playing 15 minutes in the last game of the men's season, really.
Rangnick's revolution.
Rangnick's revolution, quite literally. So why don't we start to round this out? Now, Pius, is there anything else and anybody else that we should still be talking about in terms of that we're linked with, that we could be signing or whatever? Because not that much. Obviously, you touched on the whole centre-back situation, but I feel like let's talk about a second centre-back once we've got Kounde done.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what we probably should do. No, I think we've pretty much gone over everything. Obviously, Tuchel was spotted on holiday as well, so he's gone to Italy. Yeah, he's in Italy with a partner. Not sure if it's his wife or not. The article claims it is. So that's interesting if they've got back together. Also probably a good thing as well. The only other thing I was going to say was Aspi. Aspi is supposedly having talks as soon as the Spain games are done. Very, very unclear as well if he's gonna join Barca or not. But I think Nathan Gissing said he's got a verbal agreement. He's also being offered a longer contract at Barca. Obviously, will play more as well. It's just, I think it was Matt Law who put it out, said, he's kind of undecided because of the losses of Rudiger and Christensen have changed things differently. And I think I said this a few weeks back as well. I was like, I bet you he's going to stay now because we've lost 2 big defenders instead of the 1. So yeah, I think just my personal opinion, I think he'll stay for one more year.
I think he'll stay for one more year, but I don't think he'll stay because he'll want to stay. I think he'll stay because we'll make him stay.
Because he has to stay, yeah.
Yeah, because he has, like you said there, he's been offered a bigger contract by Barcelona. The difference is we don't need to offer him anything. He already has a contract that was auto-extended with obviously number of games played. So, like we've lost too many players, and we have so many defensive. Like
we need his dressing room influence. Like we do. I'm sorry,
and we need just bodies. I mean, like we just need bodies. Like Aspie, if need be, if he plays there regularly, can help out at left centre back. Like obviously, I don't want that to be the case, but if we don't have enough defenders, we need someone. And with his experience and age, and you know what I mean, he can do a job in different positions, probably more so than a younger player can that's not experienced as much, in my opinion. So, sorry, Pice, but did I cut you off there? Did you want to add?
No, I was just going to say it's crazy how young our team is / will be potentially after this summer. I mean, you've got Azpilicueta, Jorginho, and Silva, maybe Mendy, but he's not been here that long. But your real sort of experienced older players,
especially if Lukaku also leaves,
yeah, like we lost Giroud, we lost, we might even Alonso is classed as a senior player. We lost Rudiger.
Kovacic is quite senior. It's what 27
true.
A lot.
True, yeah, Kovacic counts, but there's not many, man. There's really not. If you can't lose too many of these older players, I know. I personally, would like Aspie to go because I don't think he's very good anymore. But I'm kind of worried now myself. I'm looking on the situation and think, shit, he might have to stay one more year, because it might get a bit out of hand if we lose too many of these defenders.
Yeah. I mean, what Jester said here, no, Koulibaly would most certainly be a dressing room influence. But if we do get him, great. And if we do get Koulibaly and Kounde and a couple of wing-back backups, obviously get rid of Aspie ASAP, in my opinion. Like, thank you for your service and stuff, brilliant, but not good enough no more. But I'd rather have Aspie than no one, is my logic. Obviously, if we get someone like Koulibaly, amazing. But if we don't, then those kind of things are important. And also, someone new coming in can be an influence for sure. Number one, do we know how good his English is? I mean, he's from Senegal. They speak French there. And he's lived in Italy for God knows how many years. So how good is his English? I don't know. I mean, you can be a dressing room influence without English, but it will take you a few weeks, months, maybe a year to get that, influence properly going, I would say, if you don't speak the language. Let alone come into a club significantly, I mean, not in stature of where they are, but in terms of pressure and just pressure to win compared to Napoli, where, well, I mean, they love Sarri even though he came second. I mean, I love Sarri, but they never won anything, and they love everyone anyway. It's a bit strange. I mean, I rate it as sets of fans, but the pressure is different. So, very different to what Koulibaly has experienced for the last, God knows how many years he's been at Napoli for now. But Charlie, just to finish off, what were your thoughts on the Aspie situation? Do you think we should force him to stay?
For me, it's very much dependent on who comes in. We cannot make any decision on Aspie's future until some more defenders come in. If one or two come in, then by all means, Aspie, thanks for the service. You can go on to Barcelona and do your thing in Spain. But I think it would be a mistake to let him go with no other defenders confirmed to come in when we've already lost Rudiger, we've lost Christensen, we're probably going to lose Alonso. We're losing a lot of experience, not just at the back, but experience just within the squad in general. And it would, even if he's not going to play that much, and even if he's, his ability is waning a little bit in terms of how influential he is in games, that kind of experience around the dressing room and the training ground, particularly with younger players and stuff, like JT, when he didn't really play much in his final year. I'm not comparing the two in terms of their ability in that, but in terms of being captains and stuff and leadership qualities, that's invaluable when we've got such a young team. So for me, Aspie, I think right now we need to keep him. But if a couple of players come in at the back, like a Koulibaly and a Kounde, then we can definitely shift him on.
There you go. I mean, just that if that is the case, I'm like, why the fuck are we signing Kounde? Can we not just sign a proper right back then? Because, if that's the
Kounde's playing right back for France tonight, so Kounde is versatile. He can play right back as well. So in theory,
watch him. I tell you, watch it.
But in theory,
with Chelsea Football Club, I don't want a centre back playing right back as much as he might be decent at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it might be an option like if
as a backup, sure, but
as
just
a backup, it's kind of getting 2 for 1. He can. He's not amazing there, but he can do it.
And why would you move James to DM when his best attribute is putting the ball in the box?
Well, did you see that cross he made to Sterling the other day? Oh my days, that was ridiculous.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, did you see the cross he made to Sterling against Italy? That was.
Oh, was that the one Sterling missed? Was that?
Yeah, the open goal. Yeah, that was some cross.
Yeah, it was some cross. I mean, it's certainly a big thing for James, but I will also say, James could single-handedly, in my opinion, solve our midfield issues if we give him a bit of time there. Personally, I think he's that good of a player at pretty much everything that he could quite literally solve that by himself. Sure, you'd then lose his crosses, but I mean, Clutch keeps going on about how the biggest thing to fix is our midfield. James can fix that. It's easier to find another midfielder. It's easier to find another person that's good at crossing than it is to find another DM if we can't get right. I'm not saying it's what we should do, but I'm saying
fair point.
If we sign a proper right back and not Kounde to play right back, then I'd be okay with that. But clearly, Tuchel doesn't want to do that. Otherwise, he would have put Reece James at midfield more often, more regularly anyway. And Billy can, but Billy apparently lost the ball 14.1 times per game as a DM. Awful. Like, what was the stat compared to Jorginho? Jorginho lost it.
He's also not the profile we need, is he? He's more like a Jorginho. Like
he's Jorginho again. Also, his nickname is Scottish Iniesta. So that doesn't
he's
tell
more
you
of an 8 for me anyway. He's really good as an 8.
Exactly that. But yeah, Clutch just. Or did I ask you about this already? No, I didn't. Aspie, what were your thoughts before we finished that out?
In a perfect world, if Rudiger would have stayed, I would have sent him on. I've been saying that for a while. We need a new leader in the dressing room. But the fact of the matter is we've lost both Rudiger and Christensen, so we need him to stay. And I think it's all dependent on what we want to do next year, what formation we play. Because at the end of the day, we still need another wing back to replace Reece James when he's not playing. We need another right back. We need another center back. If we're going to play a back 3, that's 3 center backs on the field at all times. Are you really wanting to go into next season with Malang Sarr being one of the main ones? No. So
Colwell's coming back as well.
Colwell's not going to be a main, but I don't see him as a main starter. I see him as like what Chalba did this year.
Yeah, I know, but wait, I'm confused. Why did you mention Malang Sarr?
Because he would be one of the main guys.
No, he wouldn't.
Main guys.
If you only have Thiago Silva, we'll say Kounde. We won't add Aspie in there. You have after that it's Colwell and Sarr, right? That's why I'm saying you need to keep Aspie
and Chalobah as well.
Signed one centre back. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, but we're not signing one.
Then I would expect Colwell to be the main guy over Sarr very quickly into the season.
Yeah, Sarr's shocking.
He is.
Like maybe not first day of the season, but by October.
But we don't know what Colwell's going to be in the Premier League yet, so
that's why
that could change very well.
We don't know that about anyone we're going to sign that's not from the Premier League, so.
Yeah, it's all fair, but that's where I'm like, we have to keep Aspie because we need the bodies.
We don't sign enough players, 1,000,000%. I agree with you, bro. Absolutely. SA televised. If I'm honest with you, not sure who Ryan Ait-Nouri is.
He plays for Wolves.
Oh, that kid's a baller. I'd love him at Chelsea.
I think he came from Rennes as well.
Yeah, left wing back.
Is he the new Johnny? You know how they used to have Johnny at left wing back?
Yeah, he's been there a couple of years though.
Yeah, he's been there a little while. He's so fucking quick. He's rapid.
Hey,
yeah, he's good.
Maybe SA televised is onto something. Get on that. I don't know.
It's because there was a rumor early on today, but it was from I don't know how reliable the source is. It was Alan Nixon. A lot of people were saying he's really reliable, but I've not really seen too much or checked into it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, he's another one you could potentially add on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I still think we should be right on that McNeil Donny from Burnley, considering they got relegated. Like, if they didn't get relegated, then he'd probably be too expensive for who he is and what he is. But because they got relegated, surely you'll get him for so cheap. I rate him a lot. Maybe Kounde, but he's a bit too offensive, I reckon. But yeah, big up all the Ferrari prop in the chat. And if you mug a Ferrari, careful next time I ban you. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna round this out here. It was good to be back. I enjoy streaming. I was annoyed by not being able to. Like I say, I will try to at least do one a week. I'll aim for 2 a week. And then from middle of July, we'll be back on the regular grind, as we always are, ladies and gentlemen. But again, if you're still here, I appreciate you very much. Subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to get to 15K before the start of the season. Obviously, the less I stream this month, the more difficult it gets. I understand. So the more I need you guys to subscribe if you haven't already. So please do that. Smash the like button for me. Even approving it's under 21, very cheap, 25 mil. Well, maybe I agree with SA Televised. But yeah, please do also follow my 3 wonderful guests down in the description below. Please subscribe to Charlie's channel. He has hit the 500 subs already, but that don't mean we stop there. Getting to 600 subs. Link is down in the description. Dead Blues Brothers. Please do also check out Pice's website, chelseafc365.com, and of course, please do follow Clutch on the Twitter. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea. Appreciate you all very, very much. Up and onwards. Let's hope we can get some signings done soon, and we'll see you next time.